A very warm welcome, everyone. Mark and Nadia here. Now, because of the COVID-19 situation, there is even more reason to stay at home, relax, and more importantly, to watch some fantastic shows. And there are some really good shows coming up, isn't there, Nadia?
Yes, of course. And that is why we've got this very special person here with us, joining us today as a guest, Ryan Pyle. He is an adventurer. You guys can go look for him on social media. He's everywhere. Ryan, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you? Okay, tell us where you're at, because Mark and I aren't even both in the same location. So where are you?
I'm in Istanbul, Turkey, and the story of how I got here is quite unbelievable. I was filming in Ethiopia in March, an episode of another series, and the world closed on us when we were up in the mountains, in the Simeon Mountains along the border with South Sudan. And then didn't know where to go. And my two options were basically go back to Canada, which is where I have my passport. I'm a passport holder of Canada. I could have gone back there. But instead, I chose to come to Turkey, which was another country that was open, just so I could stay in the same time zone and not be working all through the night from North America.
Wow, that sounds like a TV show itself, doesn't it, Nadia?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like, where were you when you got the news about the quarantine? You were in one of the most awesome places. I was in my kitchen, I think, so you have one of the best stories to tell right there, just right there. But yeah, but also we want to ask you, how have you been during this COVID period in Turkey, in Istanbul? Like, how's it like there and all that?
Yeah, so Turkey has been quite relaxed with its restrictions. So from Monday to Friday, I can go out and walk around, but everything's closed except for the pharmacies and the grocery stores. But then in a unique thing on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, everything is closed and everyone has to stay home. So they're trying to allow people to go to work, and they're trying to have some commerce and stuff like that during the week, and then on the weekdowns the whole city is closed. So that's kind of how they're doing things here, and I'm doing great. I was in a hotel for 6 weeks, and then when I figured out this would be a lot longer, I moved into an apartment. I've got a great grocery store around the corner, and I rescued a baby kitten who's keeping me company. So everything's taken care of, and now I get to promote my, the greatest happiness for me now is getting to promote Expedition Asia, because we worked so hard on it last year for 10 months, doing expeditions in 10 different countries all throughout Asia, and it was epic. So now I get to talk about that, which is my favorite.
So let's talk about that, because I mean, Ryan, your whole life sounds like a TV show. You're trapped in countries, you're rescuing kittens.
Yes.
Let's talk about your main show, which I think is going to be fantastic. I've seen the promo, and just tell us what it's about, basically.
Well, I think, I love trekking, I love hiking, I love climbing, I love exploring the world by foot. And Asia is just such a spectacular part of the world that I wanted to bring this kind of expedition style show to Asia. So we filmed in the Philippines, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, Taiwan, Kyrgyzstan, Thailand, India, and Hong Kong. So we got 10 episodes, and we actually filmed those in 10 months last year, 10 episodes in 10 months. And we just went out and had fun. Like in Mongolia, we climbed Kirtan Peak, which is the highest peak in Mongolia on the border with Russia and China. In Taiwan, we trekked the Holy Ridge. In Hong Kong, we did the Maclehose Trail. In Malaysia, we climbed Mount Kinabalu. In Kyrgyzstan, we did the Turkestan Circuit. We just went out and did the best bucket list adventures that you can have in Asia. And it was a dream come true. And to have the chance to work with Discovery Channel is always fantastic. So very happy, and I'm happy, and it's a nice show because we really do look at culture, we look at nature, and then we also have an adventure. We really try to do things in an authentic way, and not try to overhype it up too much or build in, just a lot of the falsehoods and things like that. These are real stories from real people, and I have great guides in them who are actually part of the show, and that relationship is so strong. So I've always appreciated having that freedom.
Right.
Nadia, on a scale of 1 to 10, how jealous are you right now of Ryan? I saw your face oh my God, I want to do that.
I know, right? So jealous. But
1 month in each country.
Right. And when you said, Ryan, 10 months, 10 countries, I went, because I know how tough it is to do that. Like, how did you do it? The scheduling, the actually organizing the whole trip. Tell us about the documenting process.
Yeah, so I mean, it's wonderful to be busy and it's wonderful to have work to do, obviously. So we do like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It takes us between 10 and 14 days to film one episode, and then I have 10 to 14 days off. I do a lot of speaking engagements all around the world, and of course I live in Dubai and I have some other things I do there. So having that time on and off is great. And yeah, we plan every episode out about 2 or 3 months in advance and start getting the guides and start getting the routes and start getting all the insurances and the permits ready. And then we just land and kind of explore the urban environment a little bit. Like for the Malaysia episode, we landed in Kota Kinabalu. We explored that city, a little bit of the way of life there. I interviewed a really wonderful photographer there who's been, documenting not Kinabalu National Park for decades, and John Kong, and he was amazing. And then after kind of we understand where we are and what's going on, then we did the climb up Kinabalu, and we explored a lot of sections that most tourists don't get to see because we spent like 5 nights on the mountain, where most people just do it in 2 days. Like they do it one night and then they summit and come back down. So we're just getting a chance to tell stories and show people how amazing Asia is.
So Ryan, I think the most common answer when you ask somebody, what's your dream? What would you love to do on your bucket list? The most common answer would be, I want to travel the world and explore. So what about from your point of view? You have traveled the world, you have explored. What was it that made you want to do that in the first place?
I just really love to tell stories. So like when I graduated, I played basketball in university at the University of Toronto in Division One. And, when I was growing up as a child, I didn't really have any other interests because I was just playing basketball all the time and I was exhausted. And that's one of the negative aspects of being playing high level sports is that you just don't have any time or energy for any other interests. And then once my career ended and I wasn't good enough to play professionally, I started to travel and try to like find myself, like what am I going to do with this next stage of my life? And I just loved writing and doing photography, so I did that for many years at a pretty high level, covering China. I was living in Shanghai for 16 years and working with like New York Times, Time, Newsweek, Forbes, Fortune. And then in 2010 I decided I really just wanted to have more control over the stories I was telling, and I decided to make television. So I rode a motorcycle all the way around China, set a Guinness World Record, and that was my first TV show, Tough Rides China. And we do the motorcycle shows still, and then now we're doing Extreme Treks also. That's on BBC, and now of course we have Expedition Asia, which is on Discovery Channel. So, my crew and I are the same crew with all the shows, and we're just kind of rolling along, exploring the world, and it's beautiful. And I also feel it's like a huge responsibility because I feel like people who do have the chance to travel and the chance to tell stories that many people see, you have to be very responsible in how you communicate with people and how you tell those stories and how authentic you are, and make sure that you're, sharing those stories and interviewing those people in a respectful way. And, we put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because you're not just one of those travelers that are like, oh, going everywhere and just sharing it to the whole world, but you're actually taking responsibility and accountability in sharing the real stories about the places. And also, I know there's this talk about, once you've made one place famous, then it's not the same as, when you first visited it. Like people will start flocking, tourists will start flocking. And so what's your take on that? So how do you, as a storyteller, as you mentioned just now, maintain that balance or, responsibly tell that story?
Well, I think now when Expedition Asia comes out on Discovery Channel, no one's going to be flocking anywhere to any of the locations we filmed in. So that's the terrible reality. But I don't think we went to any place that was off the grid or secretive. That's not what we're trying to do. I think we went to some places that are quite famous, like Mount Kinabalu. Like lots of people go to Mount Kinabalu, but what we tried to do is tell the story of Mount Kinabalu in a very interesting way, where we look at culture, we look at ways of life. I had a wonderful guide there who, rescued people when they had the earthquake where many people died a few years ago. And then, of course, we spent more time there than most film crews and had the chance to kind of share the beautiful nature that exists in Kinabalu National Park and also Mount Kinabalu itself. So, sometimes we're doing things that are a little bit off the grid, and I just don't see people flocking to those really hard to get to places. And most of the people who watch the show are armchair travelers, and they just want to be taken away that's one of the things I really like about what I try to do with my TV show. It's like, you're at work all day. You're being bombarded by news. A lot of it's negative. You're getting stuff about, global warming and financial problems and all this kind of stuff. And what I want people to be able to do is sit down at night, turn on Expedition Asia on Discovery Channel, and just be taken to a whole different world, and just leave the daily grind behind. And that's why we don't try to talk too much about politics or the environment, and all this kind of stuff. I just want people to have a pure entertainment travel experience, and because they're getting enough of that in their daily lives as it is.
Fantastic. Okay, now you already mentioned that you were in Mount Kinabalu, but we also have a clip ready, and let's take a quick look at your little expedition in Malaysia.
Okay.
Within these jungles lies a mysterious peak. Often shrouded in clouds, Mount Kinabalu is the horned crown of this wilderness, a truly unique world of rock and wind, calling to those with a keen sense of adventure to try and climb its sheer cliffs. Mother Nature will throw a wrinkle into our plans at some stage on this great adventure. And you know what? We're okay with that. The cloud has just engulfed us. It's getting really wet. Everyone's saying there might be some rain coming. We are hanging out off the side of a mountain, and it is incredible. I just had the best week, and I cannot wait to tell everyone back home about my adventures here at Mount Kinabalu.
Wow, that looks absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see that. It looks really extreme, and I love the storytelling. Just on that 30-second clip, what would you say about Kinabalu is so special? Because I think it's one of the most underrated places in Malaysia. I'm surprised that most of my Malaysian friends have not actually done that hike.
Guilty.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so underrated, and why do you think it's so good?
It's a spectacular mountain. It's so accessible. It really is. It's like an hour and a half drive away from Kota Kinabalu. You can fly to Kota Kinabalu from pretty much anywhere in Asia. And it's a 2-day trek, and it's not the toughest trek in the world. There's a lot of people on it. And that helps with safety, because when people, slow down or have difficulties, there's always someone there to help. And I don't know why people don't go. It is visually stunning. And I think what makes Kinabalu so special is it just stands out. It just stands out of the jungle on its own. There's nothing else around it. Like when you go to Switzerland and you climb up a mountain, you're surrounded by other mountains. When you go up the top of Kinabalu, there's nothing. Yeah. And you can just see like 360 degrees in every direction, and you're the only mountain there. And it's just such a bizarre rock form and feature. And God, the sunrise, when you get up there in the early morning, and that sunrise with the clouds just rippling around, and you make it to the top, and you're up at the summit, and everyone is happy, and the sunrises at 4,400 meters at the top of Kinabalu are magic, and that's something everyone should have the chance to experience.
Right. Well, Sabatourism are going to love that, aren't they, Nadia? They're going to watch this and be like, Ryan has just sold Kinabalu to the bomb right there.
I know, of course. But you were saying, Ryan, like you're surprised that there are a lot of Malaysians who still haven't climbed Mount Kinabalu, and I am guilty as charged. But for me, one of the reasons I haven't been making excuses here, but is that I'm so scared that it's going to be tough, because I hear there's some training and all that, and I'm like, what if I'm not fit enough? Like, what would you say to people like me?
Try and fail, and then figure out why you failed, and then try again. Like I think that these kinds of journeys are 90% mental, 10% physical, and I think that most people build up reasons not to do things and then just sit for years and decades. And I just feel like you need to put yourself out there, assuming that you feel like you'll be safe. If you have an existing condition and you're afraid of potentially not making it home, that's a different story. But if you're relatively healthy and you can, run on a treadmill for 10 or 20 minutes, then you'll probably be okay. And And I just think, we all have to put ourselves out there and be a little bit more comfortable existing with discomfort, because that's the only way we're really going to know who we are. It's the only way we're really going to push ourselves and kind of expand our idea of what's possible.
So Nadia,
Yeah.
2021, you're climbing, yeah?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you've been up Annapurna, Mark. So you're one. Like
I was going to ask you, Ryan, because we actually did a TV show called Wishlist, and we climbed Annapurna Base Camp, which was absolutely one of the best experiences of my life. And one of the contestants who we actually made his dreams come true, it was his dream to climb. He got altitude sickness and he had to come down on a helicopter because it was really, really serious. I imagine you must have had a lot of close calls in some of your episodes. What was the closest call you had in any episode?
Well, I think, altitude sickness is obviously a very serious issue, and you got to make sure that you can, that you take precautions. And I've been lucky with altitude sickness over the years, because I feel like because of the work I do, I'm quite aware of my body, and I'm quite aware of when I start to get into a risk zone of getting altitude sickness, whether it's too much sun or not enough water, or I eat, you can even get altitude sickness, I think, from eating too much food and having your body work too hard to digest it. If you overeat when you're trekking and up at high altitudes, I think it's just as dangerous as not drinking water. I'm not a medical expert, but I have had that happen to me personally. The most dangerous thing that we had happen to us in filming in India. So we filmed one episode in India. We were up in the Western Himalayas, just outside Manali, and we got caught in a 4-day snowstorm. Where it was just, we were up at about 4,000 meters above sea level, and we had to get up to Jagatsu Peak, which is about 4.6 or something like that. And we just got, stuck at this base camp for like 4 days, and it just kept snowing and snowing. And it was too dangerous to move in the snow, and it was just freezing and kind of terrible. But it's kind of nice too, because that's when everyone bands together. That's when everyone finds ways of keeping everyone's spirits up, and these kinds of moments are lovely as well. But obviously having local guides tell you when it's too dangerous to move, when it's safe to move, that's always important, because that's why we always include a local guide in the show, basically as a second presenter and working with me on camera, because as much as I am a traveler of the world, I am not an expert in every place that I go. So that local knowledge and that local connection and that local relationship is so important to me and what I do, and also to Expedition Asia, the series. So in every show and in every episode, we always have a local guide who plays a role in the show and in my experience, and it's a great way to make a friend.
Fantastic. So I'm assuming you made some friends when you were in Malaysia as well.
Yes,
were you only
course.
in Sabah?
Yes, yeah. So we filmed in Kota Kinabalu, and then we climbed Mount Kinabalu, and that was it. So one episode of Expedition Asia is one country and one trek. So we just kind of focus in on one specific area. We do our trek, and then we're out. And it'd be great to revisit Malaysia if we have the chance to do season 2. But at the moment, we just did 10 episodes, one country, one episode, one trek, one episode.
Right. So did you manage to pick up any Malay words or bahasa Melayu while you were here?
None.
Oh
None
my
at all.
gosh.
No.
Okay, season 2, you better come to KL. I teach you some Malay words.
All right.
Your cat, Nadia, will teach you some words.
Perfect. And we'll go out for some of the famous KL food too, because on the mountain you just eat mountain food, and mountain food is kind of the same everywhere. I didn't really get into the Malaysian delicacies, so I definitely missed out on a few things. And maybe I can just make a food show next. Maybe the Discovery Channel let me make a food show, and we can just travel around Malaysia eating the fantastic food.
Yes,
we'll have a great time. Malaysia food is fantastic. Ryan, I just want to go back to what you said about the close call in India, because I've always wondered, you're a storyteller. I'm sure your producers, the cameramen are also storytellers. They want to tell the story. When is the limit to stop? I mean, obviously, when it gets too dangerous. But as a traveler and as a storyteller, when we shoot these things, obviously we love to show these experiences, because I suppose that's what we want the audience to see. So is it also tough sometimes stopping the cameras, because you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this is such good content. This is quite dangerous, but at the same time, this is really good storytelling. When is the limit to kind of stop? And do you get frustrated sometimes because you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this is actually really good content?
So I think it's funny, like it's hard to verbally explain where the limit is, but when you work with the same people for 10 years, when you reach it, everyone realizes exactly the moment when it's time to put the cameras away and run. So yeah, I mean, like, there was one time we were filming in Russia, and we were climbing Mount Elbrus, and we were up at about 5,000 meters on the side of the mountain, and we got caught in an electrical storm. And there was literally, like, we were in a cloud and the lightning was all around us, and you could feel, your hair, the hair was standing up on your arm. You could feel the electricity in the air, and we had ice axes and we had crampons on our feet. We were covered in metal, and that was pretty scary. So we just packed all the cameras, left all the ice axes on the ground, and just ran back to camp. Didn't film any of it really. So, you get into positions where you just know that these are, a little bit beyond the comfort zone of risk, and it's time to go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds so scary. But at the back of your head, you're like, if only we recorded that. Like, sometimes I think,
Yeah.
right? If only. Yeah.
Something to talk about next time.
So we've seen the Malaysian episode highlights. Let's have a look at the whole series right now, because you've talked about it. It sounds fantastic. You guys, check this out.
From barren deserts to mountaintops.
Don't look down. I'm Ryan Pyle, adventurer.
Discover the breathtaking beauty of Asia.
Amazon is killing me. We watch as nearby clouds whip by, floating gently over the slopes below. The wild world of Asia beckons. Do you hear its call?
Expedition Asia with Ryan Pyle. Premieres 2nd June on Discovery Channel.
Right, so that was a little snippet of Expedition Asia. We definitely can't wait to watch it. You guys have to check it out as well. We only have a very short time with you, Ryan, but would you mind if we just fire some quick questions? It's called, of course, quick fire questions, and you answer really quickly if you're good with that.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, Mark. Go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Most favorite photograph from all your travels?
Mount Kailash, Tibet.
Best food.
Oh.
I caught you off guard.
I love Hunanese food in China. I love the spicy Hunanese food.
Worst food? Don't say Malaysia.
Worst food is definitely Tibet. It's so bland and pretty rough.
Okay, all right. Is it in one of the episodes? You guys show that?
No, it's a different series. But Tibetan food is very bland.
Okay. One thing that you want to put on your bucket list that isn't already there?
I want to learn how to skydive by myself, so I can include it in my show next year.
Interesting.
One place you would never go back to?
I don't want to put any country down, but there are a few countries that are maybe a little bit unsafe to travel in these days, and we always have to take those precautions. But I don't want to say I wouldn't go back anywhere.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the most expensive or the most valuable equipment that you have lost on your trips?
We've broken a lot of cameras. We've crashed a lot of drones into the sides of mountains. So camera equipment is definitely expensive.
Right.
Hardest mountain to climb?
The hardest mountain to climb for me ever was in Aconcagua, Argentina, which is about 7,000 meters above sea level, and we did that for another series. But we did it last year or 2 years ago, and it was just an incredible experience.
Right. Okay, one last one. We want to talk about photography skills. If you could give one advice to a travel photographer or videographer, what would it be?
Don't use a zoom lens and get very close to people and really spend time with them, because the longer you spend with them, the more they'll open up to you. And that's when you can really capture their way of life.
Right.
And about that, do you take all your pictures yourself, or does someone take them for you? Because your pictures are fantastic. We have stalked you already on Instagram.
Yeah, so I take all my Instagram photos pretty much by myself, but my crew, my two camera operators, Chad Ingram and Jesse Rosenberg, are both fantastic still photographers as well. So a lot of the still images that you see from the show are a collaboration of all three of us taking pictures to share with the media and stuff like that. And of course, there's a lot of photos of me that are taken by Chad and Jesse in beautiful places to promote the show. I don't take very many photos anymore while we're traveling and filming, just because I don't carry a camera so often, because I'm so worried about producing and directing and hosting the shows. So, but the guys are incredible, and I had a wonderful photography career, and I published 2 books, and it was lovely. But I leave it up to the guys now.
All right, Ryan. So one last time, maybe, tell the audience, share with the audience out there about your show and where and why they should catch it. So one last time.
So look, Expedition Asia is coming out June 2nd on Discovery Channel. We film in some of the most exotic locations that Asia has to offer. We're all stuck indoors now, so grab a pen and paper, watch the show, and start planning for better times. They are coming soon.
Well, there you have it, Ryan. Thank you so much. You've inspired me. Nadia, I'm sure you've been inspired as well. We want to travel the world now. Make sure you check it out, Expedition Asia. So many different countries, so many fantastic experiences. I can't wait.
Yep. Thank you so much for your time, Ryan. Hope you have a great time in Istanbul. Say hi to Whiskey the kitten for me.
Thank you. I will. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so
Stay
much.
safe.
See you later,
Bye-bye.
Ryan.
You too.
Bye-bye.